How far should I push myself? Where is the balance to be found between achievement and just being? So as with so many aspects of being human, there are these different poles that we need to try and find balance between. And it is a genuinely tricky thing because, you'll hear people praise the merits of getting out there and achieving things and getting things done. On the other hand, you'll hear people advocate just being in the here and the now, and how pleasant that is, how appropriate that is. But at first glance, those things can seem to be at least a little bit in tension. Which is it? Are you supposed to get out there and achieve things and make things happen? Or is it just enough to be where you are and how you are at the level you're at right here, right now? So, as with a lot of these things that seem to be in opposition, they don't necessarily have to be when you fall down to a deeper level. You can certainly draw on them as kind of different energies, different trends, different tendencies, different patterns, and it's useful to do that. And you'll notice that you probably do that yourself during the day. Sometimes you notice that I could be doing a bit more right now. There's room for being a bit more action-orientated or pushing things forward. However, at other times, you'll notice that you've just been doing too much. You just feel the need to stop and just to be a bit more. So having different labels for these things like achievement or stopping or just being is kind of useful, because we do need to pick out those different tendencies. But of course, they're not completely separate from each other because, even the act of stopping could be considered a form of achievement, to kind of bring it full circle, to go a bit yin-yang with it. Because stopping itself is rest. Rest is definitely a form of achievement. And of course, not only is it a form of achievement by itself, but it's going to be something that then contributes to other things that you will actively go out there and try and make happen in the world. So without that rest, the kind of typical, stereotypical achievement, climbing the mountain, achieving the goal, spearheading the initiative, that sort of stuff only comes because of the space that you give yourself from stopping. So if you look at it in that way, you can see that they are intricately connected with each other. But another consideration here when it comes to pushing ourselves or not is this distinction between outcomes, where you think you want to be, and process, which is kind of the act of getting there. There's different descriptions for this, different models. Sometimes the journey and the destination, that's a common description of it. Process and outcome, goals and the present moment. Different ways you can deconstruct it. But a lot of the time when it comes to pushing ourselves, we could almost say that pushing ourselves, if what we mean by that is engaging in something that's important, that tends to be not too much of a problem most of the time. More often when I'm working with people and this comes up as an issue, it's not so much that they're pushing themselves to be in the present moment or to do whatever they're doing, and that's the issue. The issue is either because of a lack of balance, as I just mentioned. They're not using joined up thinking maybe, and they're not recognizing that rest is also something that is part of the achievement process. And of course, achievement equally then is something that is a way of kind of stretching your system, what actually helps with the rest. So they're interconnected. So maybe they're not being balanced in that way. But another really common issue here when it comes to pushing yourself and that being a problem is they're focusing too much on the destination and not really on the path or the journey to get there. And that causes a lot of problems because we're kind of beating ourselves up for not being somewhere where we think we should be. Now again, somebody could say, well, do you not need a kick sometimes? But probably we don't need a kick. But if we do need a kick, or if we need something like a kick, it's probably a kick towards being on the path rather than being at the destination. Just think about it literally. If you're walking somewhere and you realize you're not where you want to be, is kicking yourself that you're not there helping you? Literally, you're kicking yourself, you're taking your foot off the ground, you're delaying your process in the act of actually giving yourself that kick. So you're interrupting the process, and then you're not progressing along that path. And, you could say, yeah, but sometimes we need to wake up and refocus and move forward. Yeah, we need to move forward. We don't need to be there, because you can't be there if where you're going is some distance from where you are. It's not possible to just choose to be there, and no amount of pressure will help with that. But what it is possible to do is to engage in walking that path in the present moment. So that, I think, is the issue a lot of the time. So yeah, it is true. We do need to wake up every so often and realize that maybe we're not where we could be, and there are definitely destinations that it makes sense to move forward in. But a really important part of it is actually taking that path, not just putting pressure on ourselves for not being somewhere, but taking that path. And hopefully as we take that path, then what we can start to do is really enjoy the process. And enjoying that process is really key here. Enjoyment is underrated. It's really, really important. As if you're going to sustain anything, you're going to want to take some sense of pleasure in it. And that's not to say that every part is enjoyable. And, of course, we do need to push ourselves. And sometimes there's a bit of a trade-off between the pleasure of the present moment and a future moment, and then later in terms of what comes from that. So, there is a bit to that. But if you're not actually enjoying the process of walking, you're not really going to be the kind of person who arrives at destinations. It just follows from that. And that's okay if there's nowhere where you want to be. But what we don't want is this thing of bypassing the journey. And just think about it in everyday examples like board games, like sports, like video games, things like that, like knitting, like sewing, those types of examples. You could easily say, what are you doing there with the wool out, knitting the jumper, for the grandchild? Why are you doing that? Why are you making for your sibling that jumper? Why are you making that nice scarf? Did you not know you can go to the local shop and you can buy that thing for a few euro, a few dollars, whatever it is? Why would you go to that trouble? So clearly there's something more going on than just the outcome there, because it is true, the outcome could be arrived at probably more cheaply, less time, less money, less effort much of the time. Board games, if we're thinking in that way, make no sense whatsoever. Why you get an easy solution here. If you want to win, get the board game out, put all the pieces in the right place that results in winning, and there you go, you've won. Job done. Video games, something similar. You can just use a cheat code or something and arrive at the very end, at the title, the credits at the very end, the end credits. Skip from the title and just go straight to the end credits, and there you go, job done. But of course, what's obvious in all those examples is we're missing something very, very rich, which is the experience itself. And that really is the point. We want to live. We want to some degree to struggle and to strive. Of course, we don't want it to be insurmountable. But again, the thing that is usually insurmountable is the feeling of the need to be somewhere other than where we are. So if we can get back to the process itself, well, that's something that's readily available to you. There's always going to be process. You may have more or less tools in a given moment. You may have bigger or smaller goals as to where you think you would like to be. Those goals are useful, though, because they give you information as to what to do in the present moment. And hopefully that's something you can bring your attention back to then, is the here and now, and living in the present deliberately and hopefully at least semi-enjoyable way. If you found this valuable, do like, subscribe, and share. And what's your experience? Do you have any questions or topic suggestions? You can contribute in the comments, on social media using hashtag bodymindself, or on jfl.com.